It's nice too because it's been more relaxing as far as not having to feel like I have to pack everything into one day
Yep.
and things like that. As you know, like the first day I was here, I was not feeling well. I
Yeah,
was
you were a
like,
little
I've
under
had
the
a
weather.
cold for like
Yeah.
10 days.
I felt bad.
Oh man,
I felt
I was
bad.
like, man,
Much better spirits today.
yeah. Every single day we get
and
better.
the past few days.
Um, do you have a favorite? I mean, you work in Soho, but do you have a favorite like neighborhood in Manhattan?
Uh, yeah, I'm partial to like Lower East Side, Chinatown, kind of where I used to live.
Oh, yeah,
Obviously,
sure.
I'm biased because I spent like 2 years there, but it has a lot of my favorite things. It has amazing restaurants. It has um, really cool art galleries. It has some like cool bars to go out at night. It has one of my favorite movie theaters in the city, the Metrograph. Um, the walkability is amazing. Amazing, yeah, art galleries. It's classic New York. It's dirty and like edgy and just rough around the edges. There's also some like amazing
Yeah.
new retail opening up down there as well with like menswear and women's fashion, and yeah, it's like not overrun with like young people. There's a ton of culture down there. Yeah, it has a lot of things that I love about cities, and it's so dense, right? It's exactly what you were saying earlier. It's like every 5 feet there's like a bodega or a cafe or a restaurant. A lot of history in that neighborhood as well. But yeah, I still find myself, gravitating there. One of the reasons I love going into the office is because I can just kind of meander around downtown. It's very
Yeah.
easy to get from like the west side of the city to the east side, especially like as further downtown as you can get. And yeah, I'll catch a movie at Metrograph. I'll go like have dinner at Servo's. It's a very cool spot. I love taking people who are visiting New York for the first time because I feel like that's a very like New York experience, and it's not super touristy either, which is another reason
Yeah.
why I love it. Like you really have to go out of your way. You really have to know New York. You have to have been here, five,
Yeah.
six, 7 times to seek that area out. But yeah, it's such a cool neighborhood. The only downside is there's really no green space there whatsoever. Like it literally is like
Oh,
a
yeah.
concrete jungle. So that was the thing I missed about living in Brooklyn when I lived there, is there was just like no green space. And like I'd go for runs like on the river. Like the access to the water was pretty cool, and like the views of Manhattan Bridge and Brooklyn Bridge. But yeah, definitely concrete jungle like everywhere
Yeah.
you looked. Yeah.
Something I mentioned this before. A couple things stood out to me or like struck me this visit is that like how much I just love the grittiness of the city, and like how we know that like New York has energy, but the people, there's like a confidence about them, and everybody like as far as fashion goes, it seems like people just wear whatever they want and just like rock it. And
For
they're just
sure.
not afraid to be
For sure.
themselves. And no one's like judging other people about what they're wearing or like who they are. It's just like everybody's here doing
Yeah.
their thing, and nobody minds that, the streets are a little dirty, or there's the MTA is, not as clean as
Doesn't run on time, doesn't show
like,
up. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just part of it.
It's,
Whatever.
yeah, it's part of the grid. It's part of the
Yeah.
charm of New York. That's one thing that New Yorkers love to talk about, is just how shitty the city is, right? And that
Yeah.
it's kind of like a rite of passage to start having those conversations. And now you're having those conversations. But yeah, and it's so weird when something new is built. It just feels a little off.
Yeah.
It feels like, wait, what is this doing here? Like
Yeah,
this,
what-
like
wait, what are you
beautiful.
trying to do over
yeah,
here?
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's not very New York, right? Like
Yeah.
Hudson Yards is a perfect example of that. These like big, brand new, shiny buildings with luxury retail, restaurants. This like big staircase that's like a big art installation essentially, and it just doesn't fit, right? And it's surrounded
Yeah.
by all these like old buildings, and it's just too nice and clean, and it's
Yeah.
like too big. There's too much space.
Yeah.
Whenever I go into a restaurant and it's too big, there's too much space, I'm like, this feels weird. Like, and which is like normal in any other city,
Yeah.
right? Like big restaurants with big footprints in Chicago, like that's just the norm because there's space there. In New York, like just like it's strange because you don't see it very
Yeah.
often. So when I do walk into a restaurant, that I'm trying to think of an experience recently like this, but it just feels like something's off. Like there's too much space, or like if it's too clean. Again, it's just like that's part of New York. That's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Is the dirtiness and the griminess.
Yeah, and like people, as far as like what people prioritize in New Yorkers' lives, that just doesn't, they don't really mind that. It's not, yeah.
It's just navigating life in New York is a struggle, every day, that people just don't have time to like notice other people, right? And that's why a lot of people, when they first come here, they think New Yorkers are cold or standoffish, and the reality is we're just like trying to navigate this city with millions of people, and we have only so much space to do it, and we're trying to get from point A to point B with like a shitty subway system. Like that in and of itself is challenging and nerve-wracking, and the next thing you just want to deal with that yourself, right? And so like bringing other people into the mix, there's obviously going to be conflict and people are going to be short, but once you get past that, I mean, New Yorkers are nice people.
Yeah, everybody seems nice
right?
when I'm
yeah,
here.
Exactly. It's just navigating a big city, whether it's New York or London or Tokyo, Shanghai, it there's always a certain level of stress like under the surface, right? And it's challenging, and it's not easy every day, and it's easy to have stuff get under your skin more so than other cities where it's a bit more, it's just easier to navigate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like for you, it's gotten easier to navigate, and now you're here in Brooklyn. Tell me about like your thought process in decorating your apartment, because this is like one of the most beautiful spaces that I've seen. I often say that I think you and Justina of my friends have some of the best taste.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate that.
It's like when you walk in here, it's like walking into like a contemporary art museum or something. It's like,
yeah, it's well, thank you for saying that, Rich. I appreciate that. Kylie and I, that's one of our core shared values that we knew we shared from like the first few days that we met each other and started seeing each other, was we really wanted to create a home that was like beautiful, welcoming, and that we could share it with the people that we love and our friends and our family, and host them for dinners and drinks and overnight and stuff like that. That's one of the big reasons why we wanted to live in Brooklyn, because we can't afford to have like extra space to host people, and with that, I feel like it kind of naturally, if you want to host people, you want your space to look and feel welcoming and warm, and just like fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
So me personally, I've just kind of, it seems like throughout my career, I've gotten to work with, I worked with a furniture brand for a while, and now I work in fashion and footwear, and all these worlds, fashion, design, furniture, they kind of like mold together, right? So it's kind of weird if you see someone who is really fashionable, and then you like go to their place and like the design like looks bad, or like the aesthetic is off, right? They're usually kind of all woven together, right? If you're an architect, you probably have like good taste and style, or a fashion designer, or an artist, right? Or an art director, something like that. So I feel like my professional world kind of has helped me become, has helped inform my taste and my style, right? And yeah, also just seeing what other people are doing with their spaces and with their fashion. And it really is, if you were to do, in New York and Soho, like people watch and see like, oh, I like what that person's wearing. And then you go to a store and you try it on and see if it works for you. Right. So I'm doing that when I go over to other people's homes and kind of taking what you like and what you don't want, or watching a movie or flipping through a magazine, stuff like that. And, you know, feeling inspired by that and trying to trying to bring that into your own home, your own style. And, yeah, I feel like I've come a long way, in my, when I was a kid, like I wasn't really like interested in those things at all.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been like a learned behavior. And I think a lot of it has to do with, again, like living and working in big cities, and just the people that I surround myself with. I'm fortunate to have very creative and artistic friends, and I feel like I'm nothing like like I feel like my style taste is like basic compared to like my friends. Like I'm like trying to like get to their
What a
level.
scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's all like perspective, but it's definitely been like year over year learning, and not just like with furniture, but like interior design and like art and culture. And I feel like you probably had a similar journey with museums and stuff like that, right? And just learning more about it. And I'm a very visual person. So again, if I see something out in the world, I'm going to try to replicate that, but have my own kind of spin on it. Right. So probably a journey very similar to a lot of other people's. And again, I've just been fortunate to work in creative fields and have a lot of creative friends where I'm able to be inspired by them. And I'm at the point now where I seek those learnings out, right? I'll go to an art gallery, or I'll go into a retail store and try on some clothing, probably way too expensive, but again, just to see what it looks and feels like. Or go into
what is this video?
Exactly. Or like go into like a really expensive furniture store knowing that I'm not going to buy anything, right? But maybe I'll find something that looks like that, right? Looks like that. And it's definitely a long process. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. And that's something I've learned as I've moved a few times now, is just know that the home isn't going to, you know, look perfect after 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to take months and months. And that's also like really fun for Kylie and I, is now we're like starting to travel a bit more, and we can do some like furniture shopping around New York. And like we go to the Catskills, we go upstate, and we find different pieces that we really like. And so very similar to your story about traveling to New York, going to a bookstore and buying a book. Like we've now bought in a few different like small art pieces, and that bar cart over there we got at a vintage store in the Catskills nearby where we're getting married, right? So that's just like such a cool story and piece, and it looks cool and it looks perfect in this space. So it's cool to collect things like that and to fill out a home and have it work together. It's really rewarding. And then to sum it up, like sharing that with people and having people stay here and come over for dinners, and it's a big deal for us, and we value it a lot, and it's something that we share and love sharing that with our friends and family.